Hi everyone, good evening. Let's just wait for 2 more minutes. So we'll see if more people join.
Sure, Supriya. Good evening.
Hi, who's this? MK?
This is Sharath here.
Okay, hi Sharath. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, if anybody is comfortable putting on your videos, please do so because that will give me a little energy back and I can, it'll be a better conversation if it's two ways. If for any reason you're unable to, then I completely understand.
I'll be on the video in 5 minutes, yeah?
Okay, thank you.
Satvika,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm running around doing stuff in the house, so it'll be very distracting.
Okay.
So when I'm seated in one place and when I can turn it on, I will, if that's okay.
Sure, no problem. Be comfortable because I want you all to be comfortable when you're listening. Just make sure that you're listening, though. Just make sure that
Of
you have
course.
attention. But otherwise, be comfortable. And when you can switch it on, if you have to switch it off in between, no problem.
Okay, got it.
And this is for everyone. Just be comfortable because I don't want to like force you to be seated here with your videos on, and then it becomes unnecessary. When you have to do something side by side, it's fine. Okay, so before I start, has anybody over here experienced anxiety, or is this just to learn generally? And please, one thing before we start, even that, um, I want to ensure that over here we create a safe space for anyone to be able to share whatever they want to without any sort of judgment coming from anybody. And I'm sure none of us will, but I just have to say that to ensure that the space is a safe one so that we can support each other fully. Okay, so absolutely no judgment. Please feel free to share what you, if anybody is going through any sort of anxiety, please feel free to share because we all want to create a supportive environment over here so that we can all grow together. So before that, before starting, has anyone over here experienced anxiety or is familiar with the feeling? If yes, just let me know. And since we are just a small group, you can unmute. If you feel like typing, you can chat in the chat box.
I've experienced it, but it was a long time back.
Mhm.
Healed from it and know how to deal with it or manage it whenever it happens. So all good in that respect. But I'm familiar with the experience and the feeling.
Yeah.
So it will be relevant, the topic.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? Thank you, Aman. Anybody else? Sharath, have you experienced anxiety?
Actually, I have joined this from my wife.
Okay.
So I don't have like not
It's not
major.
a first-hand experience.
Yeah. Majorly, I don't get such anxiety or something. But when I go through some stressful things, some family things anytime,
Yeah.
so I feel
Yeah.
anxiety, something like that.
Even if we are not familiar with anxiety, we are all familiar with stress. We have experienced it at some point.
Yeah.
And anxiety also, I'm sure we have all experienced it, maybe not as a recurring thing, but at some point we would have all experienced feeling very worried about something or feeling worried in a way where you can't think about anything else, where you're just worried about something. So, but of course, here what we're talking about is anxiety as a state of mind which tends to interfere with our day-to-day functioning. And I'm not going to talk about this in the context of yoga or anything like that. I'm just going to talk about it in a general context so that anybody can benefit from it. Thank you, Sharath. Nice to see you on the camera so that I get that feedback back as well. Yeah. So, Anxiety is basically when the mind is not in a state of calm. We know that. But the point I'm trying to make over here is it is a mental state. It is a mental condition. But this mental condition can sometimes become so extreme that it can even wreak havoc on our physical well-being. So you must be familiar with how anxiety, when you're very worried about something, have you ever experienced feeling really worried or really tense or really anxious about something and then feeling sick in your stomach? Like maybe for an exam in school, or maybe you knew you were going to get shouted by a teacher or something like that. Have you ever experienced this? This feeling in in your stomach, that nauseous feeling of really anxious, really uneasy.
Yes,
So,
I mean,
like, uh, please go ahead.
Yeah.
thanks. So I think it becomes, when it becomes more than a mental feeling, it becomes a physical feeling that you're not able to shake off. Like,
Yes.
I think and you don't know when those situations come upon you. It could be just even something as running late for something,
Absolutely.
or yeah, it just, so you don't know when it's coming, and there isn't a pre warning or something saying, okay, this situation is going to cause this. It just ends up happening. So sometimes your body, takes control, and you're not able to regain that control. So for me, that's how I define anxiety in, many situations.
Yeah, that's really very true. Because when our mind is not in a state of balance, because our mind and our body is not separate, what your mental state is, eventually it will show in your body. For example, if your mind is not at ease, if your mind is disturbed, you will feel there is a tightness in your muscles. You will feel that your breathing is not easy. You will feel that, slight headache or whatever. So different ways it expresses itself through the body in different ways, because the mind and body are one. Actually, they're all it's deeply interconnected. We can't separate the mind and the body. So when it becomes very extreme, when it becomes chronic, then it can lead to actually physical symptoms which become illnesses, and we don't want to get to that level. But anxiety can also have a root based on something that is unprocessed and unhealed. So sometimes it could be surface level, like just, anxiety of something surface level. Another word for anxiety is actually fear. It is unprocessed or fear that we haven't looked at. But we don't know what that fear is. And sometimes the thing that we're afraid of and the anxiety we're actually experiencing, like you may be afraid of reaching late, not afraid, I don't want to say the word afraid, but you may be just anxious about reaching late somewhere. But the anxiety that you feel in your body can feel far more strong than that. And you'd be wondering that it's only a matter of me reaching 5 minutes late, but why am I experiencing so much anxiety in my body? Why am I having such a strong reaction to it, or such a strong bodily? Why is my body acting like so strong for such a small thing? And that is because it is triggering a deeper, unprocessed part of us deep inside. So the trigger might be something very mild and very simple, but what's actually getting triggered inside is something from before, which is unhealed and unprocessed. And then we need to really look within and see why is that trigger acting up so much, and what is it that needs to be processed in that. So that is deeper healing and deeper when you heal deep rooted anxiety at the root cause. So here now let's start with some simple methods to first cut that mind, because your mind starts going into a different track when you're anxious. It's all in the mind. So how do we cut that mental activity which is going spiraling out of control before it gets too overactive, and before it gets us into a state of being tense, and muscles tense and breathing and all of that? So how do we, like, simple ways which even a small child can do? What are simple ways that you can cut that overactive, overthinking mind, or just break that, that chaotic energy in the mind? How do you do that? Any ideas?
Yeah, may I?
Yeah, please.
Okay, one thing, like as I earlier said, when you talked about anxiety, like I was possibly talking about an anxiety attack that I had Before that, like, it's not a state of being for me, at least for the kind of person I am.
Yeah.
And it was a very hard situation, and I just had it. And for the first experience, I was kind of lost, like, what is happening?
Hmm.
Because I was out of breath. I was like, what is happening? The whole physiology was changing, and I was like, okay, this is messed up. This is not me. Something is off. So what I did in that particular situation, first of all, I noticed that I wasn't breathing properly.
Yes.
So, and the place that I was sitting in, it felt a little claustrophobic at the moment.
Hmm.
So the first thing that I did was get out of that space. I just walked off and I got into a different state, and then I started focusing on my breathing.
Hmm.
That let's have a normal breathing and let's try to figure it out what is happening and where is this coming from. So I went to look internally, but I think the first thing, as you asked, what could be a simple thing that anyone could do, is
Hmm.
get out of that space and start moving your body in some way, because movement helps in that kind of situation. Your physiology changes, so your psychology can also be changed a little bit. So yeah, that's what I did.
100%. Thank you for sharing that. And that is exactly the point that I was coming to. Movement is like medicine for anxiety. And I'm not talking about movement where you're pushing your limits or trying to break your limits, not that kind of movement. Simple movement where you don't have to think, where you don't have to use your mind. And what kind of movement? Like just getting out of that space, going for a walk, like Aman mentioned, or things where you don't have to think, which you automatically know, which your body remembers how to do without using your mind. Like can you just name few things that you do every day, which you just
Breathing.
with your hands, with your body first, before we come to the breath. We'll come to
Dance.
the breath. Dance. Dance is wonderful. It's very therapeutic.
Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Listening to music.
Listening to music. But the main thing that I'm trying to do to emphasize over here is, because anxiety is a state of mind, we want to get our attention out of the mind and into the body. Does that make sense? So we want to get our awareness into our body, because the more you bring your
Distract our
awareness.
mind.
Hmm?
Distract our mind.
Yeah, it's not even distract, it's bringing your attention and anchoring your attention in your body. Because here, right now, in the state of anxiety, your attention is not anchored in the body. So your mind can take it anywhere and everywhere and into the most fearful images. Or into even maybe no images, but into all sorts of places where it can't really get an anchor to come back into a state of groundedness. So the way to come back into a state of groundedness is through the body, and you bring your attention back into the body by doing something with your body, by doing simple movements, not complicated movements. Nobody's asking you to try to do a headstand in this moment. Please don't try to do that, especially if you're not familiar with it. But things like simple chores around the house, folding clothes, picking up your things, putting things away in your cupboard, maybe washing a few vessels or just cleaning up, or maybe things which you do every day, but you don't use your brain to think about it because you do it so mechanically. That mechanical movement cuts those thoughts, and it has a very, very calming effect because your attention is suddenly brought back into the body without much effort. So start moving and start doing things where you don't have to think, like either walk or do something simple with your hands where you don't have to think. So that is one simple technique to break that constant your mind just running here and there and everywhere. And the more you come back into your body through these movements, the more you'll get that centeredness and groundedness. So is that the first thing clear? Is that fine? Any questions on this? All good? Anyone has any experience to share with this, like how Aman shared his walk coming into your body? And that's why yoga and all these also helps, because when you're doing yoga, your mind is all the time on your body. So you're naturally grounding and anchoring your mind in the body. But even if it's not for in the context of yoga, just doing simple things, simple movements.
I think something to add, if someone is as you said, music, one person said. So
Hmm.
maybe if you play a musical instrument like a guitar or something, just going back into that moment can also bring back your awareness to body.
Yes. And that's again because you are actually doing it yourself. You are also bringing your attention into the body, into the creation, into the present moment. So, this is the point also that I want to make. Anxiety can exist when your mind is in the past and when it's in the future. But the more you bring your mind into the present moment, the more anxiety dissolves. And when you're fully rooted in the present moment, there's no more anxiety left. And the moment you step out of the present moment again, the moment your mind is in the future or in the past, again, those back and forth thoughts will take you into the energy and that vibration of anxiety. And the moment you come back to the present moment is when, again, you step out of that frequency and you step into that a different frequency of centeredness. So even when you play an instrument, you are bringing yourself into the present moment. And of course, music also has a healing and a soothing impact on the nervous system. So that is also part of it, but that we'll come to in some time. Because that is, I don't want to just rush through that bit because that's again a lot of, there's lots to speak in that. Second thing is, so we said we want to come into the present moment. Now, how do you come into the present moment? Part one is through movement. Movement is very, very effective, simple movement. But supposing you can't move, supposing you're just sitting somewhere and you can't move, like you're just sitting listening to somebody in some lecture or something like that, or you can't go anywhere at that moment. Then what do you do? How do you come into the present moment so powerfully and stay there in the present moment, without being rattled out of it?
With your breath.
With your breath. Very good. Like you just focus on your breath, you observe your breath. Um, yeah, you focus on your breath and you'll generally notice that the breath is all over the place. So just try to make it a rhythm, like breathe in and breathe out either equally, like you breathe in, you can count maybe 3 when you breathe in, 1 2 3, and breathe out 1 2 3, so that it's equal when you breathe in and equal when you breathe out. Or you can lengthen your exhalations to double, like supposing you breathe in for 3, you breathe out for 6, so you exhale at half the speed. And why does longer exhalation help? Because longer exhalation induces a state of relaxation. You're relaxing in the exhalation. When somebody asks you to breathe, just inhale, just for a moment, breathe, and just notice which is the more active part of the breath and which is the more passive part of the breath. Just breathe. Is it inhalation that is active or passive? Which is more active and which is more passive between inhale and exhale? Breathe and see.
Inhale seems more active.
Inhale is active, exhale is passive. So inhale requires more, like, of course, we are doing it without thinking about it, but when we bring attention to it, inhale is where you put in some effort, exhale is when you relax, when you let go. So that's why when you can slow down that process of letting go and let go for a longer period of time, and you repeat that breathing cycle over a few minutes, that has the power to rebalance your nervous system. So if your nervous system is out of balance, it can bring your nervous system back into a state of calm. Because what happens in when it's not like that, when your breathing is all over this place. Okay, I'm going to go into the nervous system now. Okay, nervous system has two sides. There is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Now, you might have studied this in school, and some of you may remember this. Some of you, if you're in the field and working with science, you may know this much better than me. If you don't, then maybe you remember these words from school, or you have an idea about the nervous system. And if you don't remember it, I'm going to explain it right now. So our nervous system has two sides of it, or two aspects of it. One is sympathetic, one is parasympathetic. These are big words, so let's not get overwhelmed with the big words, okay? I'm going to explain what these big words mean. Sympathetic is the fight and flight state, fight and flight, where you're active, okay? You're responding, reacting. That is more like your okay, on the alert, on the this thing, active. And there is the parasympathetic, which is the opposite. It is rest, relaxation, repair. So in rest, relaxation, repair, now when anxiety happens, what state of the nervous system is activated? Is it the fight or flight, or is it rest and repair?
Sympathetic.
Sympathetic, fight or flight. Okay, so it means that your nervous system is not in the middle. It's not balanced. It's not. You need to shift it towards parasympathetic action, or parasympathetic sympathetic state. So that is how this longer exhales help to rebalance your nervous system and bring it back into a state of calm. So this is through the breath. But sometimes the breath feels very subtle when your mind is very too much all over the place. What happens in that state is that the mind is very gross, very rough, very not subtle. And the breath in comparison is very subtle. So, from that mental state to come into observing the breath may not always be possible without an in between. And the in between is the body. So, through the body coming to your breath. So, you need like a medium to come back to the breath, because there's a disconnect between that chaotic mental state or that gross mental state to come back to a subtler mental state of breath observation. So, now one way is through the body. Another way is to anchor your attention in all your sensory organs. So, how do you do that? Like, just notice with your senses, notice 3 to 5 things with each sense organ. So, for example, which is like, just tell me your any one sense organ. Sight. So, observe 5 things with your vision. But here the thing is, don't observe the obvious, because then you'll just, okay, saw it, back to anxiety. That's what's going to happen. Observe what you don't observe usually. Look around you and observe small things that you normally don't pay attention to. So you're in this process, you're bringing your mental state from that gross state to a subtler state through the help of your vision. Does that make sense? So for example, if I'm sitting here and I'm experiencing anxiety, for example, and I just want to anchor myself through my vision into the present moment, I'm going to look around. Okay, I have this table with these gradation type, wood, this gradation. So I'm just going to look for little specks in that. The subtle stuff that I don't usually see, the little things that I usually don't look at. Like, look into the small things. So I just want you all to try these things right now, because when you try it, you would remember it. So just look somewhere just around you and just see the little things. It could be something on your laptop, like maybe a small little, a small little detail on your laptop, in the hardware of your laptop, which you haven't actually ever seen. Very small. The smaller you can get, the better it is, because the smaller you get is going to help your mind move from a gross state to a more subtle state. So focus on the tiny stuff. Just see small stuff around you on your laptop or on the table or just in front of you anywhere. Like if it's a print on the curtain, just look at not the bold part of the print, but the tiny stuff which you probably have never seen in your whole life, even though that curtain has existed in your room all your life. So just spend 2 minutes just looking around at those things. Like you're not looking at what is obvious, you're looking at the details which you would never have seen, even though it's always been in front of your eyes. And like that, just notice 3 to 5 things around you. If you see a plant, rather than just looking at the leaf, look at maybe one vein on that leaf. Because the more detailed you go, the more you will anchor your mind back in the present moment. And the more you will step out of that frequency of anxiety. Yeah? Have you seen 3 to 5 things? Give me a thumbs up when you have. And if you're still looking, look. Don't rush any of this.
So, here's a question. is it also distracting your mind from that moment of anxiety?
It could be, but
And
in this case,
or is it mindfulness?
in this case, it is distracting, and this is beneficial distraction because this anxiety is not serving you. Now, I'm not saying don't acknowledge anxiety, that is different. But when you know that it is spiraling and you don't need to give it more attention, but your attention is just being pulled because of um, the wave that is happening internally in the mind, you need to unhook your attention from it. And this is how you unhook your attention from it. Got it? It is just a wave in your mind. It is just in yogic language, we call it a vritti, a fluctuation of the mind. Vritti. And yoga says yogas chitta vritti nirodha, which means yoga is the quietening of these fluctuations. So you're coming back into the present moment and re-anchoring your mind back into the present moment in this process through your vision. Then we'll move to the next sense organ. So can we do that now with hearing? So just now you can just listen around you, and again, not the obvious sounds, not the loud sounds which are you can definitely hear, but the subtle stuff that you normally would miss. Maybe it's some faint noise somewhere in the distance. Maybe it's the sound of one car or some drill in the background. Maybe it's something very, very, it's there, but you're not actually aware of it till you actually become aware. Maybe it's some machine that's going on in your house, like maybe the air conditioner or something like that, and you're just suddenly focusing on that, the subtle sounds. So just pick out like that 3 to 5. Maybe you may not have 5, but at least try to pick out 2, 3 in this case. And once you're done, give me a thumbs up. But don't rush it, take your time.
Here again, it feels like it's a combination of stuff. I can hear a coil. I can hear the water filling in the kitchen. I can hear the fan above. I can hear my cat asking me for food. So, I mean, there are slight stressors there as well, in the sense, okay, I have to go feed the cat. So I'm saying it's a mix of emotion. So if you're going through anxiety, in the case of sound, if you're using sound, then let's say something needs to be done, like there's a bell ringing or whatever. So does that not add to the anxiety at that point, or do we have to seek out only the things that are calming?
No, so that's you don't have to ignore what needs to be attended to, but it should not give you that reaction in your body where you become jittery about it. And of course, if it is something that's really pressing and your body is giving you that feedback, then listen to the body and acknowledge it in that case, because this is where your body is communicating with you and it's not exactly a negative thing in this particular example. But if you're sitting here and okay, this can wait for 5 minutes, but you're already tensing up about it. Or this can wait for an hour or even till tomorrow, and you're already tensing up about it. Then that's where this comes in. Okay, so before we go to the next sense, can we have a few shares of the little things you first saw with the vision, and then we'll come to the hearing. So just share like what you picked out in your environment, the tiny stuff that you observed, maybe even for the first time. So just either type or unmute and share. And since we're a small group, you can just go ahead and share.
I have observed the design of my connecting cable,
Yeah.
and I counted till like 15 and 16 rounds were there.
Oh, lovely. That's detailed. That's very detailed, and that's perfect.
And with sound, my fan and my
Yeah.
was hanging, it's making some sounds. So I have observed the pattern of the sound.
Yeah, sometimes it can be the sound of the breeze. It can be so subtle. The subtler you get, the better. Roshan says, the patterns on your doormat. Very nice. Any sounds, Roshan?
Video, sound of the video which my son is watching. I
Mm-hmm.
normally don't pay attention to that at all, but now I had to carefully listen.
Yeah, wonderful. Any others?
Yeah, so visually, I saw first of all, there was a fingerprint on my laptop. I was focusing on that and really seeing the patterns. There was one. Then there was there is some work going on outside the building. So there is a pipe sort of a thing. I was seeing some patterns in that. I can actually show you guys.
Yeah,
Uh,
let's see.
maybe I can't.
Okay.
Can you see the camera? Yeah, we can. There is a pipe outside and there is a design on that pipe, like it's a mark of a paint or something. And I was just I was just focusing on that. And then uh yeah, there was one more small thing. I'm forgetting that what it was now. So
Okay.
I think these were three. And then voice wise, there was bird in the background.
Mhm.
That was my one. Second was the AC, and third was there is this sound that my fan is making. Like if you can, there was just one right now, 2 seconds ago. So that those,
Wonderful.
yeah.
All these shares help each other when we need, when we don't know what to look for stuff, or how simple, how detailed and simple it can be. Like you said, a fingerprint, and Sharat said the number of like the pattern, the number on that cable, and even Roshan said the detail of your mat, doormat. The little things in all of this, and the little sounds of little things all around you, like that. Now, smell we may not be able to, because we don't have much variation in what we are smelling at the moment. It's not like we're entering a kitchen and smelling like, okay, this is also cooking and that is cooking. So, smell may be a bit of a challenging one to anchor yourself through, unless you're in an environment where the smell is obvious, or even something you can actually hook your mind onto. So, just for a moment, close your eyes, see if you can smell anything. If you can't at this moment, I can understand, because smell is kind of blurred. All the smells sort of blur together, and we just don't smell it as anything distinct. But sometimes there can be something very small, like maybe your the perfume or deodorant, or air freshener, or just maybe the rain, the smell of the rain. So in those cases, you might the smell of the earth when it's raining. Sometimes it can just feel like it's cool, and you can feel that temperature as you breathe in. Sometimes something can smell fresh, or if there's a fruit near, you can probably smell the fruit, like that. So anything anyone smelled right now, just to get some examples.
Yeah, I smelled three things. One was my face wash because I just washed my face before joining.
That's a good
Second
one.
was perfume in the background, which I must have used yesterday or something. So there's still a hint of that in the air. And third is so where I'm sitting right now, in this, I have a smell of a bit of a sandalwood sort of a thing going, because so yeah, I can smell that as well. So three smells like that.
Wonderful. I like that face wash, because that is something so easy to trace back when you wash your face or have a shower. That time you can, the smell of your own self after that is something that you can hook your mind on to, right?
Yeah.
Anything else? Anyone else? Nothing that could be traced? Okay. Now let's come to the next, which is, so we did seeing, smelling, hearing, taste. Taste. Now, again, when you're not really tasting anything, this can be something that can be a hard one to hook your attention onto. But if you can, Maybe you have something that you can taste. Maybe you just ate something before this and you can still taste it, the aftertaste or whatever. Just see if there's anything left with that. If not, just bring your awareness to the place where you taste from. Bring it into your mouth and just move your awareness and anchor it over there. Just feel how it feels inside. Just bring your attention back in. Again, you're bringing your attention back into the body. Any shares about taste? If by chance anyone could taste anything?
Before this meeting, I ate jamun fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the sour taste, there was one sour one.
Yeah.
So my tongue is still at there.
Yeah, that aftertaste or whatever is still there in the mouth.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. Sometimes when you're not well, you may not even, you may feel like you got a taste even though you haven't eaten anything. You may feel like I'm just tasting something, but I'm not actually haven't eaten anything. So that can also be something you can use. It's not like, oh, I don't have to think of this because it's coming from when you're not well. Yeah.
So I went into three kinds of tastes.
Mm-hmm.
One was just the lunch, sorry, late lunch that I just had. So that was fresh. Second and third were one was a pizza that I tasted like couple of um, months ago actually, but it just came, the moment you said this picture, something you taste. And third was I tasted bhang for the first time a couple of days back. That also came up because that was a new kind of flavor for me. So yeah.
Yeah. The only point I would like to make here is try to get into the taste which is which is the closest to the present moment, rather than the taste which takes you into memory. Because from that taste which goes into memory, you will go back into that memory of the past, your experience of, eating the pizza or tasting that bhang or whatever it was. You will go into a different state in your mind. So that may take you out of the present moment. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's a great share, especially the this, what you just had. And then now let's move to touch. So in this case, this may have to be, first of all, can you tell me which part of your body is touching some surface or something right now? Where you're sitting, right? You're sitting on a chair. So first, just feel that contact. Move your awareness there. Maybe your back is resting against the back of the chair. Feel that. So without actually doing any action, you're bringing your attention back into where you feel something as a touch. Now, if that is not enough, then you can just do something simple. Like you can just move your awareness to your fingers, bring your fingers together and just anchor your mind in that touch. Try that. Bring your fingertips together, anchor your mind in that touch. Really go into bring your mind and root it there, anchor it there. Like just actually feel it with every little bit of your fingertips. For example, it can be any small thing. I'm just creating this right now, but you can do anything. You can just keep your hand like this and just feel your fingers on your head, like, when you're just sitting, or however, wherever you feel contact, that is touch. So just bring your mind and experience that in a deeper way. Like bring your whole mind into that little thing. And sometimes when anxiety really hits the roof, it may need to be done as an action which is bigger so that you can actually bring your mind into a bigger action, because this action may be too subtle for the mind when your anxiety is overwhelming. For example, if you're extremely stressed and you just do like one little finger on your temple, that may not really help you at that moment because the mind is completely gross and completely in a state of fluctuation. And here, this is too subtle for it to latch on to. So you might need to make this a little bigger for it to come down, step down, and then step down, and then step down, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Yeah. So how you can, first of all, you can just do this. If you're obviously not in some public place, maybe you would not be comfortable, but you can just give yourself a hug. And actually emotionally give yourself a hug as well, not just mechanically, but emotionally feel that love and compassion towards yourself. So this is a bigger movement, and then bring your mind into that contact. Yeah. So like that, or get up and walk, like Aman said earlier, get up and walk, movement again. So that is again like when you're walking, or even if your feet are on the floor as you sit, feel the contact between your feet and the floor. Just feel your feet on the floor and root your mind in the soles of your feet. This is all grounding. These are all techniques for grounding. Especially when you root your mind and your feet, it is a very powerful grounding practice. Grounding means anchoring your energy and centering your energy when your energy is disturbed and fluctuating. Yeah. Any questions so far about the sense organs and anchoring the mind in the body through the sense organs or at the senses? Or anything to share about any of this before we move forward?
Just doing something to the exclusion of everything else.
Arup, could you be a little louder, please?
And what I'm saying is, isn't this just doing or focusing on something to the exclusion of everything else? So, in any case, whatever's creating anxiety, they go away to the background. Yeah.
That's a great question. And yes, it is that, because there are two ways of managing anxiety. So one is when you need to, one is when you're, I think Arup, I think it's echoing back because of your, just mute this mic for one moment, if you don't mind, because my voice is coming back. Yeah. So one is that I would say rather than distracting, it is coming back into the breath, coming back into the body, anchoring your mind back into the present moment, using your, Arup, just mute that. Yeah. Thank you. Now it's done. It's coming back into the present moment, using your body and breath as an anchor, using your body and breath as something to hold on to so that it doesn't go here, there, and everywhere. There is a different kind of anxiety, which I will talk about, where that is where you have to go into the anxiety and not go away from it. That is when that anxiety has a deeper root. That is something that's a different process. This is for general surface level anxiety.
Satvika, I didn't hear what Arup said. Could you repeat that, please? And
Yeah,
hence, could
the
you
same thing that you had asked earlier, which is, isn't this a distraction from from what is actually happening? So in that sense, I wouldn't call it a distraction, because distraction means avoidance, and it is not avoidance. It is definitely not avoidance, because the moment you avoid, you are putting effort into actually a different direction, and that creates more of that thing. So it is not avoidance, but it is the first thing, whatever you experience, when you want to process that, the very first step for any kind of mental or emotional processing is acceptance of that state. Whether it is anxiety, whether it is pain, whether it is grief, whether it is fatigue, whether it is anger, whether it is frustration, the very first thing is acceptance, unconditional acceptance of that state. The moment you can't accept that state in you is when you block the healing of it. So if you are experiencing anxiety, first step is unconditionally accept it. If you're experiencing the wildest anger, unconditionally accept it. You don't have to feed it, you don't have to give in to it, but accept it. So first thing is accept it, not avoidance. Avoidance never helps. Avoidance is actually creating more of that tension, and that energy gets more built up inside. It's not avoidance, it's not distraction. It is removing your attention from that and hooking it back into what is present rather than what is in the past and the future. Because when it's in the mind, when it's in the thoughts, it's in the past and it's in the future. And we want to pull back that energy and hook it into the present moment.
So what is acceptance? For example, a scenario where, let's say, your heart is racing 120, 130, you're in a particular situation. So,
Yeah.
and so what is acceptance? Is it telling yourself that, hey, I'm feeling this way? Is that what you mean by acceptance? What do you mean by
How does that acceptance look like? Exactly. Good question. Thank you for asking that. Acceptance is okay, I can feel my heart is racing to this at this speed, and I accept it. I fully accept it. I try not to get scared of it. I try not to worry about it. I try not to stop it and resist it. I try not to block it. I try not to hold it back so that it slows down, because all of this implies effort. But when you accept it, you stop any effort and you just let it be. So first thing, let it be, and let it be aware of it but let it be. Don't try to fix it immediately.
So don't use the techniques that you spoke about right now in terms of the senses.
First accept it. First accept it. Then when you know that, okay, now I have to manage it, now you're approaching it from a different space. You're not approaching it from a reactive space to try and stop it, because, oh, you're like, oh, now I know how this has happened in the past. I know whenever this happens, I spiral out of control, or my heart races, oh, I get jittery, oh, I can't speak, maybe I even stammer, maybe I can't do these things. And you know that, oh my God, last time this happened to me, I couldn't give a presentation in front of my boss. All of that will come. And all of that, before you feed that, you have to first say, okay, I will accept it. When you can fully accept it is when you start to deal with it. But don't start to deal with it until you fully accept it. Any other question?
Yeah, I have one.
Mm-hmm.
What happens, we have talked about all five senses and stuff. When like I'm learning something, I see there are different things that I learn better from. Sometimes I learn better from audiobooks, sometimes I need a physical experience. So with these five senses, does everyone have different strengths? Maybe someone, if we just bring our awareness to it, someone can be better distracted or anchored better in a way from eyesight, or someone else it could be smell, from someone else could be hearing and
It
stuff like
could
that.
be. It could very well be, because some people may be more visually drawn, some people may be more this kinesthetic, some people may be more auditory. It could be. But you don't have to do all of them. You don't have to do all five senses. You can just choose one or two until you feel that shift happening. So it doesn't matter which tool you use, as long as you use a tool that's working for you. All these tools are available.
That's it. Thank you.
And just when we were trying this out, did you feel a shift, even in those brief moments of maybe seeing the pattern on your doormat, or seeing the pattern on that pipe in front, or seeing the fingerprint on your laptop, or seeing the whatever? Did you even notice a very like 1% shift in the mind state, just in that, as you anchored yourself in the present powerfully? Yeah, like there would have been some thoughts that were floating around in the background would have suddenly just dissolved, because there was no focus going to them. So there's nothing for them to survive in. They can only survive when your focus is on them. Once your focus is withdrawn from them, they automatically dissolve. And the more you can hold your attention in your body like that, and in your senses, and in the present moment through the body and your senses and the breath, is when all that fluctuation dissolves. And the method here is not by trying to remove the fluctuations. The more you try to remove it is when you're putting energy to it. So you're not trying to block them out. You're not trying to remove this. You're not trying to remove all these fluctuations. You're letting it be. You're fully accepting it. The only thing is you're doing is you're making a choice to shift your attention from there to this. And in holding it here, that can't survive anymore. That can't survive without your attention. All the worrisome thoughts, or even the thoughts which you don't know why they are worrisome, like it's just that the state of the mind is like that. All that just can't stay in that state until your attention is on it. So the
That is
idea
not
here
acceptable,
is
right?
to keep choosing to anchor, because your mind will want to run away from your body. Even when we do pranayam, how many of you have experienced that when we do pranayam, a restlessness comes in? I don't feel like doing this. At least initially, like, okay, this is too boring, especially for beginners. I can't sit. That restlessness comes, okay, hurry up and finish. This is very slow. That is the mind wanting you to run out of the present moment. And that is where you got to choose, I will stay here. Aman, I think you're muted. You want to ask something or say
No,
something?
no, I was saying absolutely what you're saying with you, 100%. Yeah.
Thank you. Have you all experienced a sudden shock or a sudden, even good news, like a big surprise in your life, in your entire life? Anytime you were absolutely surprised by something. What happened? You forgot everything else in that moment. Your entire mind was right here, right now. And that's what we're trying to do, right here, right now, through these methods, through these tools.
So how was that reconciled with acceptance? Because my
Yeah.
audible,
Yes, you're audible.
that's not really dealing with the situation or accepting it. You just focus on something, so everything's away from your attention.
Just repeat that. Second part went a little unclear.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is you're not really accepting or dealing with something. You just focus on the minute things or whatever else it is. Because you're focused, your mind's grounded on that, and that's why the other things go away. That's
Yeah.
not accepting or dealing with it, right? I mean, I'm just trying to reconcile what you said about acceptance. It's not avoidance, but unconditional acceptance. Not quite.
So there are two levels of anxiety, and I'm coming to the next level of it right now. The level of anxiety which is rooted in something which is unprocessed internally. And that is when we have to first come to this space of balance by doing these tools. But then you find, okay, this has reduced it by 50%, but there's still something else. And that's when you do the next level of it. The next level of it is looking at that thing that is causing this. But for that, you can't do that when your mind is in that state, because that is extreme gross level, and this is very, very even subtler than your breath level. So you have to step down first through these practices. And then now we go to the subtlest levels where you really go deep within. And here is where we are not at all avoiding, we are doing the opposite thing. We are looking exactly at what the root of it is. But you can't do that from that completely out of balance state. You have to step it down first and then come to that space. Now, for example, I was doing a healing session with one of my clients last week. And I won't mention the person, of course, obviously. But she had been experiencing chronic anxiety for 2 to 3 days before the session. And it had been so extreme that she has medication for it, but she prefers not to until she really needs it. And I said, okay, before you take those medicines, let's do the session first. And she said, I've been wanting to take these medicines since like 2, 3 days, but I've just been trying to stop myself. And now I don't know. I think I just have to take the medicine. I said, wait for the session to get over, then If you still need it, you can take it. And she didn't want to take the medicines, of course. So we did the session, and we went to the root of it, to the depth of it. And at the depth of it, there was trauma. There was past trauma of an incident which created anxiety. And that was happening as a response to the present moment trigger, which was a small, simple thing, but that big reaction was coming because of unhealed trauma. So that is when it is next level healing. And we're not going to get into that in this session because that is again a deeper topic. Here we're talking about the first part of it, which is general, simple ways to manage anxiety. But when we heal that root of it, to give you the complete story, when we heal the root of it, from being so anxious that her breath could not be managed and she was like wrung up inside completely, to being in a state of body, muscles, relaxed completely, heart open, bliss, peace. And this happened within one session, within an hour, because we went to that depth. But that requires a very sharp and subtle mind. A very, very sharp mind can go to that subtle level, and first it has to be stepped down. So again, I'm not saying that it's never avoidance. First, it is, okay, we will accept it and we will first manage this. Then we will look within. That is the process.
Is there something we could do to avoid buildup of this anxiety in the first place? I mean, address the problem at the source.
Yeah.
Personality traits, past trauma, yes, but
Yeah.
we have learned how to deal with this. But the problem is, it is so cyclic in nature. You said it could spiral out of control, and then every 15 minutes, I have experienced it. It comes back, especially if the issue is bigger.
Yeah.
Um, is there a way to control it at the source itself?
Yes, because the source is unhealed trauma. And trauma doesn't have to mean somebody dying or something so like something that left a deep impression on you, which was not positive. That is trauma. And which is like stuck in your mind and still has an emotional response. Like you just feel that response when you are reminded of it in any way, even unconsciously reminded of it. When I say unconsciously reminded of it, I'll give you an example. I had a client once. We were doing a healing session, and suddenly she said, "This blue color is triggering me." And blue she has seen, she's been comfortable with. But suddenly, when we started going into it, the blue color was triggering her. We went into it, took it to an incident when she was barely 4 years old and felt like she was going to drown in a swimming pool. She wasn't actually drowning, but because she was so small and she felt like the water's too big, that fear came in. That is trauma. So this is just as a educational example. This is not to share anybody's healing journey because that is always private. But this is just as an example to understand. And I'm sure she would not mind me sharing this because this is just for the purpose of learning and understanding. So, and of course, it is not that personal also. I would not share something if it was deeply personal. So, a small thing, but leaving a deep impact is trauma. So, in that case, when you know, or even you don't know, but you know that you're getting impacted, we have to go into it in a different healing process and heal those traumas so that they don't evoke that anxious response when something external triggers it or when anything triggers it, even that you're not aware of. But that will come into healing, and we'll do some sessions on that in these evening sessions as well. But it's a full topic in itself.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Arup, are you still, do you still have a question in your mind?
Whether I'm mute or unmute. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's, I mean, just a general, this thing, observation in the sense that you focus on something, so that's that. But dealing with it, we'll wait for your next session, I think.
Yeah, see, this is not healing anxiety in depth. This is healing anxiety at the surface level. Because healing anxiety in its depth requires more specific healing modalities and tools which actually can go to that level, and for that you need a different level of awareness.
Yeah.
So in this is what I'm talking about here is what anyone can do at any time, anywhere. So that is what the focus of this session is. But that we will address in a different way later.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or shares? Now I want to give you one last method, or rather two, but okay, let me just do one now. We'll do the simple one. This is something that a child can do. It is the easiest and the simplest. When you feel ungrounded, if you can't do any other method like this, energetically connect with some object of stability in your mind. Can you just name any object of stability and groundedness, maybe in nature, for example?
Strong tree.
Perfect example. A strong tree with very deep roots, a strong trunk. The ultimate, one of the best symbols of stability and groundedness. If you can't think of anything else, or at that moment you're just suddenly at a loss, when you just connect with that, just go and feel, just close your eyes and see yourself just holding that tree. And this may seem very, very simple and very, very childlike, but the power of this visualization is so understated. Like, it is an extremely powerful way, because what is happening is that you're aligning your consciousness with the consciousness of that tree. So it is at a very subtle level, it is impacting your vibrational state. So if you just close your eyes and just imagine yourself hugging that tree or holding that tree and allowing that tree to absorb and ground some of that energy of you, and you just getting that stability from it. Just actually feel that now, not just see it, but feel it. Close your eyes, see it, create that image, and then feel it. And you'll notice that even other things that might be going on, any other tension, any other sadness, any other worry, pain, anger, any other emotion will also get grounded in that. Because you're at the level of pure consciousness, you're aligning with that. You are aligning with the earth. Earth is the ultimate stability. And see the consciousness of both you and this object of stability just merging. And not just see it, but feel it. And once you feel this stability for a few moments, long enough, where it is completely shifted your state, then you can start to come out of it. But don't rush out of it until you've anchored yourself in that space, in that state fully. Whenever you finish, you can open your eyes. Don't rush it though. Take your time. Yeah. Do you feel anything after doing that? Any small difference? I mean, this is like what a child can do, but the point is, I want to teach something that a child can do because it should be that simple. At least for the surface level of it. Yeah. Anyone wants to share or to ask anything?
Yeah, I went a little too deep. But
In
yeah,
what,
I think yeah, sorry.
in what way?
Uh, in the connection, like I chose a tree in the beginning, but it went into some divine direction somewhere else, and the connection was much more deeper, and it like there is a guided meditation that I do, and I started doing it by myself, and it went there and was some other level.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You can do this with a tree. You can do it with you know, you can do it with a source of light, like light from above, like divine light. You can do this with different things. You don't have to do it only with a tree. Or even feeling like you're on a mountain, the stability of the mountain, all of those things. So this is the simplest way of doing it. So let's just recap the three things, the ways that we did it today. The first one was, who's going to give me the first one?
Come on.
The first
Movement.
Wonderful. Coming back into your body through movement, like taking a walk. Simple movements with your hands where you don't have to use your brains. So don't try to do something challenging. Don't try to do a headstand right now, but put your clothes away in the cupboard, things like that. That kind of movement. Then senses. Anchor your attention back with your senses.
Visually, auditively.
Yes, through your vision, hearing, observe the smallest things in all of these in all of these senses. Observe the things and pay attention to the things that you normally don't pay attention to. The subtlest of sounds, the subtlest of images or things to see, the subtlest of the touch, the taste, the all of that. The fine detailed stuff. And then breathing. Breathing, two ways. How do we breathe?
In and out.
Yeah, in and out. In and out, but how exactly?
Extend the exhalation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Inhale and exhale equal, but rhythm, count to 3 when you inhale, count to 3. Second way is extend your exhalation to double the length. So inhale for 3, exhale for 6. Because when your exhalation is prolonged, your relaxation becomes more induced and shifts you from sympathetic nervous system mode to parasympathetic nervous system mode, from fight and flight mode to rest and repair mode. And then third is by visualizing and energetically aligning your consciousness with an object of stability and groundedness when you feel you need external support in the process. And we are going to do healing where we start to look at the roots of this, but that is a full topic in itself. So we're not touching that now. So Arup, for your question, we will come back to that in the healing sessions. Any other questions? That's it. Anything to share? Any thoughts?
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just wanted to thank you for the whole session. Amazing session, beautiful exercises, and you took us through the whole journey, and it was amazing. And thank you so much for this session. And yeah, appreciations all around. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for participating so wholeheartedly in it. I really appreciate that. All of you.
Thank you, Satvika.
Who's that, Priya?
Yes.
Hi, Priya.
Hi.
Yeah, most welcome.
Love this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Glad to know that. Please come next time when we do the deeper work.
Yep.
Arup, you have any experience to share with that? Those who have to leave, please don't, you don't have to stay back if you have to go on to any other work or something. But Arup, you have, yeah, I know you have to go. Aman, carry on, don't worry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
No, nothing specific. I mean, just, I just, this is an odd time for me, it's 5 to 6. So I thought, let me drop in. Anxiety sounded something interesting to deal with. And yeah, healing, well, I guess everybody thinks in their own way, how do you deal with things? But yeah, I think at the end of the day, you have to deal with and address whatever's bothering you.
Yeah. And you know what? In these sessions, if something doesn't resonate with you, don't take that part, but take what resonates with you. So don't just leave the whole thing. If something resonates with you, pick those aspects out. If something doesn't resonate, leave those aspects alone. Take what works for you and implement those things. That's already doing a lot. And
Yeah,
you
not
probably will also realize the effect of this when you implement this independently the next time. So now we're talking about it and we're doing it in this setting, but you're not actually experiencing it on the field in inverted commas. Like it's not actually a moment where you need it the most. So when you need it the most and you try it, and if this comes, I hope it should come to your mind. I hope so. At that moment, experiment with it. Experiment with it and see.
And it's not that the other things are not resonating. I mean, all of them make sense. It's just, yeah, they're like, what shall I say, tactics or whatever to help you calm down, basically,
They're
at the moment.
tools. They're tools.
Yeah, tools, all right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all tools.
Thank you. They're interesting.
Yeah, most welcome. The main thing is to get back to the present moment, because it's easier said than done unless you have a simple way to do it. Until you have a simple technique or a few simple techniques to do it. And it's good to have a couple of techniques, because sometimes some are easier and sometimes the others are easier. It just happens like you just sometimes connect with one in some situations and you're able to use others in other situations, and you'll just get it intuitively when you need it. Yeah, no worries, Priya.
You asked for a share, right? I mean, I'll just tell you.
Yeah.
You start the day, there's so many things going on in your mind. Okay, what do I start with? So you're getting overwhelmed. But the minute you start with something, anything, whichever one, and then it goes through. So that's another way where you just get pulled into the moment and then make your journey through that.
Yeah, exactly. Focusing on one thing is another way to get pulled into the moment, because again, that is helping your mind get into a concentrated state. That is effective, definitely. That's why when you work and you focus on your work, sometimes it can even break the loop just through that.
Yeah.
I have observed that, if you're impatient,
Mm-hmm.
your anxiety will build up.
Yes.
If you are proactive, you will be anxious,
Yes.
because the world doesn't operate at the speed you operate. So proactiveness is not rewarded, and so that can create anxiety. And what I've also observed is, if you have multiple things that are giving you anxiety, it's not easy to deal with them. If you have one thing, right, however big or small it is, and the rest of it is relatively okay, then you're giving space to address one particular thought or one particular line of thought, stream of thought, right? Then it kind of gets diluted. I have observed that if you have too many things, something going on at work, something at home, your
Yeah.
health is up and down, too many things you cannot control, right? And this tree example is good, because I felt that the pressure is relieved.
Yeah.
Just put my pressure on the tree, right? Okay,
Yeah.
you take whatever I have. I want to feel light, right? So sometimes we say we put that pressure on God, right? Let Him deal with it however He wants. This is what I can do at the moment, right? It's similar to that. So I have clearly observed that when you have less things giving you headache, which is not often the case. It's easier to handle, which is the case with anything. But there are other traits, like I mentioned earlier, which can easily cause anxiety. If you identify what those are, then I guess it becomes simpler to handle
So
in
the
a way.
other traits you mentioned were being impatient and being proactive. But proactive, I don't think it would induce anxiety, because proactive is the taking steps forward and effort forward, right? That's what you mean by proactive.
Yeah, but you are the only person who is doing that,
Ah,
right? Because yours is not the only lever. You have too many things interconnected, right? If all those levers move at the same, operate at the same speed, then it becomes like a well-oiled machine. Now,
yeah.
if you are the one pushing and then everywhere else it's kind of stalled, then you get anxious. Okay, uh, why am I putting so much effort? Why am I not getting those rewards? And then you get all those kind of thoughts.
It's actually not the fact of the state of being proactive, it is the other things that come with that, the other things that are tied to it in these situations. Impatience is again non-acceptance, because you're like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, or let this hurry up, let this go fast, 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 fast. So it is not accepting the pace of what something is going at. It
Yeah,
is non-acceptance of the pace. Even if you want something to go fast, first you have to accept it, and then you have to change it. But without actually accepting it, I'm not saying that you should be that say yes, this is fine. I'm not saying that. Just say yes, this is happening. That is acceptance. Just acknowledge fully to yourself that this is the reality right now.
yeah, makes sense.
Then you can actually move it forward. But if there's non-acceptance of what the current reality is, nothing can be shifted from a state of non-acceptance. Nothing, no healing will work, no shift of mental state, no shift of energy, nothing works from a space of non-acceptance. And what you said about the tree, it is in fact surrender. It is very deep grounding. And sometimes we need something to anchor ourselves onto so that we can officially let go, we can officially let it be and release it. So, yes, having that object to anchor it and release it too helps, either to God, and that helps. Some people need a grounding force like a tree. Whatever works for you in that moment, you can use all of these tools, like all of them can work.
Yeah.
And even when you connect with God, for example, you have a deity or a guru or whatever, you are in fact at the level of consciousness, you are aligning your consciousness with the consciousness of that being. Now, for example, I'm just saying this because this works for me. This is my guru at the back, Ramana Maharishi. And if I have ever been very disturbed in my life where I don't have the, where I just feel I don't have it in me right now to sit and do all these tools and techniques, I just think of my guru. And I just fully think, like with my 100% mind, I think of my guru. And for me, he is the energy of the ultimate peace. And I just align myself vibrationally with that energy by thinking about it. That's all I'm doing. And it is actually energy, this disturbed energy and this still energy, when you bring it here, it can't remain like that. It will just suddenly quieten down just by aligning it energetically. So that visualization is not just in the mind, it goes way beyond that. It works at the level of consciousness and energy.
Yeah.
So when you say
Sorry, you went off, Supriya. Your voice is not coming now. It started with it. I could hear you in the first few seconds.
just to clarify, when you said when you think of or you focus on Ramana Maharishi, is it the things that he says
No, I don't even
that
think
you
of the things he says. I just think of his face.
okay?
For me, that connects me energetically there in that state. Maybe at other times when my mind is calm, I might reflect on the teachings and all of that. But sometimes when you don't have it in you to do all that, just whatever works to get you into the space of connection. Basically, you're establishing a connection in whatever way works.
I just wanted to add to, I think, what Roshan was saying before in terms of being proactive. I think what he's talking about and what I can also relate to, for example, is, let's say, looks like my battery is going to go. I'm just going to go off the video before I get to this.
Sure.
Is like in my case, if I'm trying to get the kids to make sure that they get to the bus on time at 7:15 in the morning. I've made all the preparations the previous night, let us say uniforms, shoes, what to make, all of it, the pre-prep is done. But eventually, when it comes to actually getting them to school on time, there's always something and it's out of my hand. So, in that sense, I think that's what Roshan was talking about. Even if you think you're proactive or efficient, or you have taken care of what you might think are all the small details to make sure you're there, it's not necessarily only dependent on you. It's dependent on how they feel in the morning, what time they wake up, and
Yes.
all of that. Forgot 101 things. So it's in those moments that you have to be a little more mindful and say there are only certain things that are in my control and there are certain things that are not in my control.
Yeah. And the more you're able to relinquish that control is the more peaceful you will be.
Correct.
Yeah, and sometimes be ready to face the consequences. If it's the bus, so be it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's worth paying the price of those consequences sometimes, rather than having that much stress because of not letting that control go. So that doesn't mean that I'm saying that you should not worry about getting the kids to the bus on time and then you just say, okay, it's not in my control, and let the bus get missed. That's not what I'm saying. But yeah, just acknowledging, yeah, that there are some things that are out of my control, exactly as you said it in the same words. And just being okay with the fact that everything is not in our control. And then trying your best from that space.
Okay. And because it always ends up being, being mad at the kids, saying, why can't you just be ready on time, and then after that the whole day sort of spirals into, oh no, I shouldn't have lost my cool, or I wish I could have stayed calm. But it's almost like a repeat, one day into the other.
These things these are reactions where, if you can catch it when it is building up rather than it has already built up, it is easier to manage. All of this, whether it's anxiety, whether it's anger, whether it's frustration, whether it's anything that suddenly builds up very suddenly, if you sense, oh, now I'm getting irritated, for example, or now I'm talking about another example, not in this case. I'm talking about anything where you feel it's building up. If you can just observe it, just be aware of it. Even if you're doing your daily stuff and walking on the road, just be internally aware that this is building up in me and acknowledge it. I accept that this is building up in me. You just have to say that. I accept that this is building up to me. I accept that I'm getting frustrated because of this. And just say those words in your mind. I accept that this is happening. You'll find it's already dissolved by 50%. Because somewhere there is non-acceptance of that state being shifted. There is non-acceptance of us moving out of that state of balance and peace, and not wanting to get out of that balance and peace, which actually adds more to it and builds it up by another 50%. So maybe the thing shifts you out of balance by 50%, but 50% is our very subtle level reactivity towards it. That I don't want to be in this state. I don't want to be in this space. I don't want to experience this frustration. But you say, I allow it. I accept it. This is happening. That's all you need to say. This is happening. That's it.
I mean, again, bringing it back to this, if you don't mind me bringing back the same example, isn't that in some way when you say, okay, I'm accepting, but you're also suppressing that feeling of why can't it just go smooth?
So don't suppress that also. Accept that also. That I accept that there is frustration building up because I feel, why can't they hurry up? Why can't they be ready on time? I accept that it is annoying me. I accept this annoyance fully. The more you can move into that space of allowing and accepting all this energetic phenomenon within to play itself out, you are actually moving into the space that is allowing it rather than the space that is playing that role. So you're getting into the space you're getting into the stage space of it, where all this whole thing is happening rather than actually playing the role in that moment. Just say, I accept my frustration. I accept this annoyance. I allow it. It's happening. Just say it's happening. I accept. I don't need to be a person who can't get annoyed.
Also, sometimes it helps if you prioritize where you want to be pissed. All right. I mean, um, slightly zoom out and
Mhm.
then find out, okay, where you want to spend your energy being frustrated. Some things happen naturally, but am I better off, raising my voice on my kids because I didn't get ready on time, or do I want to raise my voice because they're not academically great, or what do I want to focus on, right? So sometimes that line of thought also helps. I have seen, may not work for everybody, but
Yeah, you
choose
pick your
wisely.
battles then. That is picking your battles. That is again consciously deciding where you want to react and where you don't want to react.
Yeah.
So again, you don't have to react, but you are choosing that I want to react to this and I'd rather not react to this because I don't have the energy to react to everything.
Yeah, and it's okay because sometimes if you think, okay, I don't want to fight this, I don't want to do this, you won't be disappointed, whatever the outcome is. All right, then one less thing off your plate. Worry about the big fish that you have to fry later on.
And another thing that I'd like to add is a lot of this awareness actually comes with practice. So
Yeah.
if you're like in a situation where you're emotionally riled up, right? You may not be aware at that moment and you will lose your calm, which is okay. But then through continuous practice of, meditation and pranayama, that actually does come into effect because I've seen that in myself. Because when I would regularly meditate, even when the anger is coming up in me, automatically that awareness that Satvika was talking about comes into you that, okay, I am getting angry. And then you automatically just calm down, it dissolves. But then when you see that you're not doing your pranayama and meditation, because that's what helps increase our awareness on an ongoing basis, that's when, like, there are days, when I wouldn't have done my meditation, or there's a phase where I'm traveling and nothing happens, you can see that I snap easily and get angry quickly and stuff. So a lot of it just comes with regular practice, and you'll see that in about 1 to 3, 6 months of your regular practice and meditation.
Yeah. And another thing is, thanks for sharing that, Priya. That's absolutely true. It's like a muscle. The more you train it, the more you build your awareness. And the faster you can catch it when it's building up is the easier it's easier to catch it then. When it has already built up and you're in the thick of it, then to pull out of that energetically requires more very strong will and um, at that time you're already involved in it, so you want to get out of it then. But when you know it's already coming up and you can just observe it, you don't have to fight it. Never fight it. When you fight anything that is unwanted, so-called unwanted, you actually create that suppressed energy and it blocks and creates more tension inside. Just say, this is happening, I'm getting annoyed, I'm losing my cool. Just say it to yourself and allow yourself to be in that state. Don't tell yourself that, oh, okay, I'm not that kind of person, but now I'm becoming that kind of person because of this and all of that. And don't hold yourself to a standard and an ideal. Allow yourself to be that human being who experiences this because this is part of that. And if you're getting that experience, just okay, I accept this. Just observe that energy, observe it. So you're stepping from the this versus that and all of that to the space in which all of it is happening. And when you can move from that to the space which is holding it, you're not part of it anymore. And then that dissolves.
That makes sense because it's about taking your focus away from that particular situation where you want that situation to change rather than and bring it back to where you can change your state of mind through all of these tools.
Yeah. And one thing you can do is just accept that this is what it is.
Exactly.
This
Exactly.
is
That
how the
may
kids will
not
always
change.
be. They will always be rushing to the bus. And
Correct.
I just need to learn to use this experience as a way to, take it as an opportunity to cultivate awareness rather than getting disturbed by it. I mean, of course, disturbance is a part of it, but take it as an opportunity to grow your awareness. Everything that tests our pushes our buttons, tests us, is an opportunity to grow.
Right. And this could be across situations, right?
Yes,
You don't have
yes,
to be
yes.
eager to
Any situation.
change that. Yes, change that. Yeah, it's about how you look at it.
Exactly.
Got it.
So we have gone quite a bit over time. I'm okay, but if anybody else needs to rush or go, you are most welcome to leave. But if you have any questions, please feel free to clarify them because I'm here for you.
Yeah, I'm going to drop, but I want to thank you, ma'am, for this and everybody for participating very nicely. Good to be part of a group and share
Yeah.
some of the experiences. Glad to know that we're not alone.
We are never alone. We are all, and the reason that I want this and I want this interaction is because I really want that community feel where we create a space which is mutually supportive. Firstly, by dropping all judgments, no judgment, because judgment blocks that support. We can't support each other fully if we are judging anyone or even ourselves. So, dropping judgment and just help each other, help ourselves. Let's just create that vibe where we're just that mutually supportive space over here and a safe space mentally, emotionally.
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
Bye.
thank you for being here, Roshan. Lovely to have you and to see you again.
Bye.
And I'll see you in the next community session, at least whenever. Next week, guys, next week there is no session. I'm at a meditation retreat. So there's no class also. It'll be the week after. Okay.
Thank you, Satvika.
Most welcome, Supriya. Thank you for your questions. Your questions are very deep, and I really appreciate them and love answering them.
Thank you. No, I think it's about, see, I think for us, we're all, I mean, or at least I speak for myself, it's at that point where, oh, can that really work? I mean, okay, moving my body or being aware, from a sensory perspective of things around. It doesn't sound like, will that fix it? But I think just allowing yourself to believe or take that plunge and try it, like Priya was saying, right? Practice it.
Yeah.
So maybe by the next session, when you're going deeper, if we all, sort of be conscious and practice that every time these kind of situations arise and see if it works. Yeah.
And the thing is, when you're in that state, your mind will tell you this is not going to work. Because the mind will try every trick in the book to take you out of it. That's the nature of the mind. That's the role of the mind to keep you in that state where you don't actually come to the present moment. Because when you're in the present moment, the mind can't survive in that way. So the mind will try every trick in the book, and the easiest one is this is not going to work. This is too easy. So don't buy that.
Hey, I'm also going to move. Thank you, Satvika. Bye.
Yeah, I think we'll wrap up now. Thank you all for being here. Lovely to see you all and have you all here. See you next Wednesday. And for those who are practicing in the morning, yoga, I'll see you on Friday. Okay, lots of love to all of you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.